Anytime you interact with a web page, you generate all kinds of events, whether you realize it or not. An event is something you do on the web page, like moving your mouse around, scrolling, or clicking a link. Browsers listen for these events and can do something in response, like open a larger version of a photo when you click on a thumbnail image. When you interact with a web page, you may trigger thousands of these events. And in most cases, the browser doesn't do anything special in response. That is, unless we write JavaScript code that handles or responds to that event. In fact, JavaScript was created to listen for events and respond to them. So for example, you can write a code that waits for a user to click a button and then runs a function when that button is clicked. Perhaps the function expands part of the page to display other elements or sends information to a server. There are many other events beside click events. For example, users scroll, move their mice, touch and drag on their phones or tablets, or type. Each of these events has a name that browsers can recognize. For example, there's the click event, which we have been working with so far in the previous lectures. However, there are many others apart from clicking. You can double-click, hold the button down, lift the button up, move the pointer, hover it over an element, and move the pointer out of an element's area. And on smartphones and tablets, there are similar touch events. A keyboard is another way of generating user events. However, there are some events aren't necessarily tied directly to a user's action. For example, the load event occurs when the browser has completely loaded all of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These events are some of the more commonly used, but not all of them. Now that you know more about events, it's time to see how they can trigger responses. We know that JavaScript can run a function when an event occurs, but how do we set this up? To understand that, we'll take a closer look at functions and JavaScript in the next lecture.